哦，咁我過到去可以 say 個 hi 先啊。Chat box。Oh, testing. Is the sound in YouTube okay? Testing. Is the sound. Sound in YouTube okay? 先光會唔會暗好多？熄咗燈。哇，唔得，熄個燈背晒光。我聲 OK，thank you。好，喂 ，Google Meet 嗰邊有冇人未入嚟？啊，可以入嚟㗎啦，OK 㗎 ，ready 咗㗎啦。Okay, so today we will then go on to see more different kinds of equations that we can reduce. We can change it to quadratic equation. Okay, so a very quick review of last time first. We have talked about two types last time, and then we will extend a few more examples also today. So I changed to the textbook display. Okay, so this was the on the screen here. Shortly after it's about there. Okay, so yeah, so this was last time that we discussed two kinds of equations that we can change, we can reduce it to quadratic equation format. Okay, the first one we talk about is when the equation may involve some fraction. Then in fact, it is nearly always that when we work with fraction and when we work with plus or minus of fraction, we always try to make the common denominator. We always try to make same denominator. And then so when we have some addition of fraction and something here, then we always try to make the same denominator. Also same for the quick practice. When we do a 1 minus something, we always try to make same denominator. And then only after we make the same denominator, we can then remove the denominator. Because it's usually when we do solving, the denominator is of trouble. And so making same denominator lets us to remove it. And then after removing it, then we can solve it more easier. Okay, and then the other kinds of equation that we have also talked about is the higher degree equation. And then when we see an equation with higher power, then we always try to recognize is there a double power. That is, do we find some terms that with a single power and then with a double power? Like example here, we can see x power 2 and then x power 4. And if we can recognize the power 4 is the double power of power 2, then we can reduce it to a quadratic equation by putting the single power to u, let u to the single power. Then the double power will be double, since it is a double power, then it will be the square of u. Same for the part B here. We see power 6 and power 3, and then power 3 is the single power and power 6 is the double power. And so if we can recognize the double power, then let u be the single power. and the other double power will be u squared. And we also did a quick example in here. And then today we try to extend this a little more. Now what about there are some other equation that we can reduce it to the double power form. Okay, and then we go on to see the next example. In fact, it's the next quick practice. We see the quick practice 14. We may do both of them one by one. So in the part A here, quick practice 14, in the part A here, we see it is power 5, power 3, and power 1. It's a polynomial equation, and it's a degree 5 with power 5, 3, and 1. But then here we see we cannot recognize a double power easily here. And therefore, before trying to find a double power, because you can see power 5, 3, and 1, they are no any double power relation. But then before we can recognize some double power, we can try to work with the equation first, like try to rearrange or simplify or whatever things we usually do first. So one obvious thing, one easily seen things we can do here is you can see power 5, power 3, and power 1. All of them contain an x. And therefore, we can try first taking out a common factor. For the other kinds of equation we see earlier, we cannot take out x, because, for example, I go to the last example, quick practice 13. You see power 4, power 2, and constant. We cannot take out x because 4 does not have x. Then we cannot just take out x for only 2 terms. It's not very useful. Therefore, we don't do take out x here because 4 does not have an x. But in this quick practice 14, we see all the terms have an x. Therefore, it would be a good idea we take out x first. And after taking out x, then you see there is x power 4 and then minus 10x squared, and then take out the x, it is 9 remaining. And therefore, from here you can see now it is put into 2 parts. The x taken out is one part, and then while the bracket that remains is the other part, and the right hand side is 0. Now, so if 2 things multiplied together become 0, then that means either one of them will be 0. Therefore, we say x equal to 0, or x power 4 minus 10x squared plus 9 equals to 0. And then now from here, it seems the idea to go on is more straightforward. X equal to 0 is already one of the answer, while the other part for x power 4 minus 10x squared plus 9 is the other part. And therefore, you can recognize now this is x squared and x power 4. Therefore, this is a double power. And then we can use the last example skill. So maybe now let's take 1 minute or 1 to 2 minutes and finish this as well. So this is already one of the answer for x equal to 0, while the power for 1 we can use a previous skill. So let's do it. 1 or 2 minutes, let's do it. And so copy this x equal to 0, while the other one we can do or maybe you can just leave it blank. It's already the end. And while for this one, then you can let u to be the single power. So it is the single, it's a double. And then I try not to explain more. So you do it by yourself. always remember when you let u and solve it, don't forget to change back to x after finishing, after doing the u, because u is something you let to it, and it is not given by the question, but the question asks you for x. Therefore, remember to change back to x finally. 使唔使 reject 有 I 嗰啲 answer？其實係睇題目嘅，有時題目如果叫你 solve and give your answer in x a plus b I 咁就要啦，咁就留翻個 I 咯，意思係嚇，即係如果個題目講明嘅你 solve and express in the form a plus b I 咁就要啦。咁其實上一條 example 咧，我都照做埋個 I 嘅。咁你做埋個 I 就一定冇壞嘅，你做埋個 I 就一定冇壞嘅。咁就但係如果有時佢可能喺 section A 咁啊冇講過，因為如果對compile 嗰個 syllabus 嚟講咧compile 嗰個 syllabus 嚟講咧，咁就佢嗰個I 係應該 non-泛，即係 section B 噶嘛。咁佢如果佢出咗 section A 度，咁佢又冇叫你要 express in a plus b I 咧，咁就可以唔使寫到啦，你可以 reject 咗佢都得啦。咁所以呢個其實係睇個題目要求㗎，即係要唔要 I 嗰度。計錯應該冇計錯，因為你撳出嚟係9就係9㗎咯喎，你撳出嚟係1就係1㗎咯喎。因為呢個係 equation 啊，你 solve 個 quadratic equation， 咁你撳出嚟嗰個就係嗰個嚟㗎。如果你係做 factorize 咧，咁你先至要搬翻個隔離，所以就你撳咗9就 x 減9咁樣，咁就嗰個係 solve 嗰個 equation， 咁有啲唔同。因為呢個係中間係減嚟㗎，咁你中間係減咧，咁你 factorize 嘅時候咧就應該係-9同埋-1嘅。Okay, so this is the some example to show. This one you see originally it does not have double power. It's power 5, 3, and 1. But then after taking out a common factor, we can recognize it is a double power type equation. The double power thing may be, we may also talk about it today in another type of example, which it also shows us that when we can recognize a double power, then the single power and double power has a relation of u and u square, which we may also use it later in the next section, next type. Okay, part B. We also do part B as well. Part B. This is seems a very long equation. That you see is x squared plus x and then a bracket square, and then minus 8 and then a bracket x squared plus x and then plus 12 equal to 0. Very often when students see this kind of question, they may just try to expand everything. They may try to expand this square, expand this negative 8, and then try to rearrange the terms. But if you do this, if you try to expand everything and rearrange the terms, then finally you will get a power 4 equation, because square give power 4. Then you will finally get a power 4 equation, and you don't know how to go on. That's a very useful case. And then so you may, if you do this, then you may just stop it at here, stop at the x power 4 part, and then stop. I don't know what to do next. And therefore here the idea is try to see, is there something that appears too often? Is there some special parts that appears often, more often than others? And one thing you can see is this is a x squared plus x and the same x squared plus x. If you can recognize these two things are common and try to give a name to it, then things will be easier to see. And also another observation could then be, this is a bracket power 2, and then this is a bracket. Then then this is also a kind of a double power. Okay, so it is also a kind of a double power. And therefore, if we use this sense, then we try to let this to be u, then we can rewrite this equation into an easier form, which is u squared minus 8u and then plus 12. So again, the same thing, the other bracket also make it u. And then this is an equation that is much easier to solve because it is a quadratic equation, and you can use calculator to help. Okay, then by calculator, then 8 and 12 is 2 and 6. Therefore, u is 2 or u is 6. Henry 話都計到4次方，你講4次方我都計到啊。其實都係嘅，4次方我都計到嘅，但係你要試 root 咯。即係因為4次方通常我哋嘅做法就係試到一個 root， 然後就除一除佢變細。係用 remainder theorem 係，我明你講乜係。你試一個 root， 然後將佢做長除，然後變3次方，跟住又再試 root 長除變2次方咁樣咯。或者你可能3次方就已經可以撳 program 啦嚇。咁但係即係 anyway 都4次方一般嚟講都唔係咁易搞嗱。不過但係如果你記得我哋上次 chapter 5嗰個 quest 咧，我哋喺 section C 整咗一條4次方㗎。咁其實都係用試 root 咯，要試 root 咯。好啦，咁我哋繼續啦，講翻呢個我間開佢先，費事撈亂咗頭先做嗰啲，間開佢先。Okay, then u equal to 2 or u equal to 6, and also remember don't just stop here because the u is introduced by u, and we want to find x. The question asks you to for x, therefore change back to x. Then it will be x squared plus x equal to 2, or x squared plus x equal to 6. And then now changing back to x, you see it becomes another quadratic equation, another pair of quadratic equations, and so solve it and then solve it, and we have the answer. And therefore, putting back into the calculator friendly form, also the other one, put it back into the calculator friendly form, and then we can 原來仲有位，我喺度撳 back tip， 我褪過嚟，原來仲有位嘅冇睇到。Okay, and then calculator, then we can get the answer. It is x equal to -2, or x equal to 1, or x equal to 呢個係3加同即係-3同埋係2。Okay, so you can see this is the final result. So we let you to make it an easier quadratic equation, and then finding the u, change back to x, and solve the x for another equation. Alright, so this is the part A and part B. Any questions here? Any questions here?先50分，50分即係30分落堂。Okay, so it seems I hope you don't have any question for this one. Anyway, okay, so before we reach to the next part, I would like here to show you some more observation. When we refer to the part A, we see it's a power 5 equation. Power 5, or another way to say it is a degree 5 equation. Degree 5 means the power 5. Degree means the highest power. Okay, so a degree 5 equation, and what do we have finally in our result, in our answer? We have a very first answer 0, and also the plus minus 3. Maybe I zoom in part A. Okay, we have the very first answer 0, and then we have plus or minus 3, plus or minus -1. Plus or minus 1. Okay, and so all together, then you see there is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 solution, 5 roots. Okay, so a degree 5 polynomial, we get 5 roots. Let's observe also for part B. If we do expansion, then you will see there will be a x square and then square. That means it will be x power 4. And it also seems that x power 4 will be the highest power here. Therefore, it is a degree 4 equation. And what do we have in our answer? Then you see it is a -2, 1, -3, and 2. Therefore, altogether 4 roots. Okay, and so a degree 4 equation, we have 4 roots. So in fact, in general, if we have a degree n equation, that means that when we see some high degree, probably it may not just be 4 or 5, maybe probably 6 or more. If we have a higher degree equation, then the maximum number of roots, the greatest number of roots that we can have is also n. Like in part A, a degree 5 equation, we can have at most the greatest number will be 5 roots. While part B, a degree 4 equation, then we can have at most of 4 roots. Why do I say at most? Because sometimes some of the roots may be for some of the parts of the equation there is no real roots. Then in that case, then some of it may be missing. Then that's why I say a degree 4 equation, it may have at most 4 roots. At most. By the way, this is also a very famous result in even university mathematics. This result is called the fundamental theorem of algebra. From the fundamental theorem of algebra, it tells us a degree n polynomial has at most n real roots. Okay, then next we go to the next part. In fact, the whole last quick practice is still about high degree. Now the next part is equation with square roots. So sometimes we may see square roots in our equation. For example, we can briefly see example 15, but then we will do more work. We will do detailed work for quick practice 15. So you may see equations like this with a square root. And again, just like every other time we see equations like this, if we see square roots, usually it is the trouble, and therefore we would like to remove the trouble. Remove the trouble means to remove the square root. Right, so when we see square root equation, then we very often we will try to remove the square root. And how we remove the square root? Usually we try to do squaring both sides. That's why in the last sentence in the paragraph here, it says we try to do square both sides. So we see quick practice. Oh, by the way, I think it's better. I nearly forgot. This part about square roots. Remind yourself with an exclamation mark. Okay, when we solve equations with square roots, remind yourself with exclamation mark. I will explain this later. Why exclamation mark? Okay, let's do quick practice 15. And let's try to analyze how to do this. So this is this is also an equation with x, and also the trouble thing you can see is the square root. And therefore, our very first step will always be try to make square root on one side. And then next we try to square both sides. Why do we do this? Why do we need to make the square root on one side? Because if we, in the very first step, we just square both sides for this, that means if we try to, I change color because this is not good. I try to show you an example which is not good. Therefore, I don't use the same color. If we try to do square both sides here directly, that means we are trying to work with the blue color steps here. Then the bad thing will be when you do expansion for this square. Then of course the first term is good, but then there will be a middle 2ab, a middle term 2ab, and then followed by b square. That is, we are using the, sorry, I changed wrong. That is, we are using the a minus b square identity, a square minus 2ab and then plus b square. Then this one is okay, but still the square root is still here, and we cannot remove the trouble. Therefore, at the very beginning, we don't do this at the very beginning. Not useful, because if you just square both sides at here, then it cannot help. The square root is still here, so it is not good. And therefore, we don't do this, and we work it away. 咁呢個唔做得啊！呢個係做得，但係冇幫助嚇。呢個做得，但係冇幫助。咁另外亦都值得一提啊！嗱，呢個咧順便提埋啊，就係嗱，你千祈唔好做呢個啊嗱，因為咧你有時會覺得咧，你只要兩邊，sorry， 你有時會覺得咧，你只要所有 term 都做同一樣嘅嘢咧就可以啦。咁其實唔係㗎啦。咁呢個都係錯㗎嗱，都係用翻藍色啊！你千祈唔好咁做啊！你就呢個 square 減呢個 square 等於負4嘅 square 嗱，呢個都係錯㗎。你唔可以每個 term 逐個 square 㗎。我哋通常喺 equation 入面可以做嘅就係成個左邊做同成個右邊做同一樣嘅嘢，咁就可以嘅。但係咧，如果你逐個 term 做呢個唔啱㗎。因為咧嗱，如果我哋背後原理係成個左邊、成個右邊 square， 咁你會發現嗱，紫色呢步係啱嘅，係 OK 嘅嗱。雖然頭先話過呢個係 not helpful， 但係 OK 嘅，即係佢幫唔到手，但係係啱嘅。咁咧，但係咧藍色呢步就一定錯啦，因為你睇下咧，你藍色呢步咧，如果由紫色呢步走落嚟咧，你係變咗將個 square 分俾佢哋兩個，但係加減係唔可以咁樣分㗎嗱，所以千祈唔好咁做啊！呢個亦都係比較以往會常見嘅嘢嚟㗎。咁咧嗱，我哋可以做兩邊一齊 square， 但係唔可以逐個 term square。咁你要明白就係即係點解啊？即係佢點解乜嘢得乜嘢唔得咁樣嚇。嗱咁所以咧，我哋其實個流程咧就會變成好似上面紅色咁樣啦。真係做嘅話 ，OK， so we will then here try to make square root on one side first。And then when we square both sides, the square root will cancel with the square。And this is also the best way to help us to remove the square root. That is to remove the treble. Okay, so we try to make square root on one side. Therefore, square root on one side, and then put this minus x to the other side. Therefore, it becomes plus x, so x minus 4. And then only after here, then we can do a squaring both sides. Step 2, squaring both sides. Then squaring both sides, the square root and the square will cancel away.And the right hand side also squaring both sides. And then now this becomes a quadratic equation in x only. A quadratic equation because the right hand side expand it and you will have x squared. While the left hand side is just some power 1 and you can rearrange and get back the quadratic equation form. So let's go on. Then x minus 2, expand the right hand side, x squared minus 8x plus 16. And making it into a calculator friendly form, then x squared minus 9x plus 2, therefore 18. 會得唔得，OK， 6、3、18係。And therefore x is 6 or x is 3. Okay, so this is some skills when we see square roots. When we see square roots, this is some of the skills. So far, so good. Is it okay? Just up to here. Reject， OK， 好，就暫時到呢度 OK。不過咧，你可能記得頭先我話你頭先你記得我頭先叫你話 Part C 呢度咧，你加個感嘆號俾佢。點解加個感嘆號咧？因為你特別留意咧，就係我其實遲啲仲會有一個嘅，就係凡親咧，我叫你加感嘆號嘅原因咧，就因為你要 check 答案啊，要 check 答案啊。咁點解要 check 答案？我留翻一陣間再講啦。咁點樣 check 答案法咧？就係你記得你計完之後咧 ，6 and 3。Remember after finishing it, then try to put back the 6 into the original equation and check if it is OK。將個6放翻入去最原本嗰條式，睇下係咪真係左同右係啱嘅。另外將個3放翻落最原本條式，睇下係咪左同右係啱嘅。咁呢個咧就要做個 check answer 啊。咁咧所以咧，咁我哋就 check 下啦。咁我哋用藍色嚟寫啦 ，checking。嗱咁至於點解 check， 我一陣稍後再補充。咁可能我講唔到太多 example 咯，咁就 checking。咁啊 left hand side 咧就係 6啊。So square root 6 minus 2 and then minus 6. Then what does it give us? It is a square root 4 minus 6. That means 2 minus 6 is negative 4. It is the right hand side. OK。嗱，其實我哋呢度寫得仔細啲啫，但係其實你如果即係心算比較快啊，或者你直接撳落部 cal 度咧，都好快可以撳到啊，你唔使寫咁多步驟噶。咁 checking left hand side, right hand side, OK. Therefore, this answer is OK. And also the other one, x equals to 3. Then again, we do checking. Then we find that left hand side will be the square root of 3 minus 2. Minus 3, which is square root 1 minus 3. That is 1 minus 3. It is negative 2. But it is not negative 4, because the right hand side must be negative 4, the original equation. And therefore, you see the left hand side, right hand side, they are not the same. Therefore, 3 is not an answer, and we need to reject it. And if we reject it, then we don't need to put a double underline for it. So 3 is not an answer, we need to reject it. And therefore, we check this from, we know this from our checking. Therefore, when we do equations like this kind with the square root, then the exclamation mark here, it means we need to do checking. 好啦，咁跟住咧，我都想簡單解釋咦點解我哋要做 checking 嘅咧？咁其實咧，原來咧就因為咧喺 squaring both sides 呢個過程入邊咧，我哋係會令到係會引入咗多咗答案俾條 equation 嘅。例如咧一個最簡單嘅情況咧就係、即係我用最簡單嘅情況嚟解釋咧就係、例如如果就咁 x 等於2一條 equation。咁你知道 x 等於2咧，咁答案就係2啦，係咪 ？x 等於2啊嘛，咁答案係2啦。咁咧，如果我哋做 squaring both sides 咧，就變咗 x square 等於4。即係雖然好似好廢咁樣，明明都有答案，做咩要 square 咧？不過我想話俾你知點解我哋做 square both sides 係會 introduce 多咗答案落去。咁嗱，我如果就係 x square equal to 4咧，咁你變咗咧就即係 square both sides 之後咧，就 x square equals to 4。咁咧，你例如 say 再開翻方嘅時候咧，咁你就會記得要加翻正負啊。咁咧，所以你發覺再落翻咧就會發覺，咦，同原本咧係真係唔一樣，係會多咗答案㗎，有2同埋負2㗎。咁而正咧，亦都係呢個原因咧，所以點解咧？就係你做 squaring both sides 嘅時候會多咗答案啊，而且多咗嘅係本來未必想要㗎嗱，呢個負2係多咗出嚟，但係我哋本來係唔想要㗎。咁所以咧，我哋就需要去做 checking， 去知道邊個答案係要 reject 啊。咁而我哋如果睇翻我哋喺呢度成個做嘅步驟咧，我哋喺呢個位嗰度咧就做咗 squaring both sides 嘅，亦都喺呢個位嗰度咧，你發覺係多咗引入嘅答案嘅，即係你會令到呢度咧係本身多咗一個唔想要嘅，即係個 free 嗰個答案嘅，因為咧你會 check 到咧，例如呢個 free 喺幾時開始出現會可以做答案咧，就係你代翻個3落嚟，我而家圈住呢條色咧係啱㗎，因為點解啊？3咁你3減2咪即係1咯，咁然後右邊咧就係3減4負1嘅 square 都係1咯，所以就會出咗1等於1啦。你如果喺呢個3嘅時候，咁你發覺喺呢步咧就係代個3落去就係啱嘅，但係咧喺未 square 之前咧，你喺未 square 之前咧，即係上一步咧，咁你代個3落去咧，你發覺係唔啱㗎，因為呢個3減2即係1啦，開方1即係都係1。而3減4咧就係負1嚟㗎，咁呢個咧喺未 square 之前咧，你會出到咧就係1等於負1，但係你 square 咗之後咧就會令到佢1等於1啦，咁就亦都正因為佢係正負好 square 咗咧，係會都係一樣嘅。咁啊，所以咧，但凡咧大家見到咧，如果你要喺做嘅過程入邊係有用到 square both sides 嘅，咁就要自己比較感嘆好自己啦，就係要 check 答案。Okay, so whenever you want to do a squaring both sides for your equation, always you need to check the answer at the end. Finally, about 5 minutes left, we try to work on the next quick practice. And then this is the square root type, and then maybe we stop for after this one. And then tomorrow we can go back to the school and then we can talk about the next two kinds. The next two kinds are maybe not very hard, also still some double power thing. And then we can then finish the chapter 8. Okay, so quick practice 16. So you can again see the square root x here. Therefore, we try to make this on one side and everything else to the other side. Then so it is 2x plus 3 equal to 7 square root x. Okay, so put the square root on one side, and then put other no square root term on the other side. The square root on one side, and then next we can do the square. Do square both sides. So square both sides. When we do square, then we try to square share the square to 7 and square root x. Therefore 7 is 49. Square root x will become x. And then next we can see then this is a quadratic equation, and we can rearrange and use calculator. So expand it, 4x squared, and then it is 2, 3, 6, 2 is 12, and then next is 3 squared is 9, and equal to 49x. And we write it into a calculator form. Minus the 49, so minus 49 it will be minus 49係負37, and then plus 9 equal to 0. And then this one, then we can use calculator to do it. 呢個應該係94 36加1啊，37 36加1，即係話4x minus 1。然後 x minus 9，咁啊36加1啦，係啦。And then therefore x is 1/4 or x equals to 9。因為我冇拎到部計數機出嚟啊，所以我就要自己 factorize 啊。但係其實你攞呢個咧直接落嚟得㗎啦。如果你有計數機嘅話，即係你用 formula 01嘅話，咁就得㗎啦。咁啊好，咁所以1/4同埋9嗰個答案。咁但係唔好唔記得要 check 答案啊 ，check 翻答案啱唔啱？咁啊，所以做 checking， 咁啊checking 咧，其實咧理論上你係可以唔使寫出嚟嘅，所以我頭先上一條嗰個 checking 咧，我係用藍色嚟顯示嘅。咁你總之即係你要 show 嘅咧就係紅色嗰個 step 嘅啫，即係 quick practice 15呢度，你要 show 嘅紅色嗰啲 step 嘅啫。咁你話我 check 咗要 reject， 咁你唔使 check 俾我睇係點樣樣嘅。總之你 check 完要 reject， 你就自己喺後面 reject 咗佢就得㗎啦。咁啊呢個都係啦，呢個都係我可以自己做 checking。咁因為咧有時你做 checking 咧，你唔使真係寫出嚟㗎，你就咁將呢個 x 放翻落去 check 下啱唔啱啫嘛，咁就得㗎啦已經。Right, therefore for the checking part, then 1/4, then it will be 2/4, minus 7 square root 1/4 plus 3。咁就再做嘅就1/2啦，4/2變1/2啦。咁然後開方我都係1/1啦，所以就減7/2啦，然後再加3。咁你發覺就係負6/2加3咁係 OK 嘅，因為負6/2就負3啦，所以呢個 OK 嘅。OK， what about the 9? Then we also check this 9。咁啊 2 9啦，然後就減呢個7 square root 9 plus 3，咁呢個就9 2 9 1 18，然後就 minus 7 3 square root 9 is 3 7 3 is 21 and then plus 3。OK 喎 OK 喎，呢個都係21減21都係答案喎。咁所以咧呢個啦，呢個 after checking 咧，你發覺就兩個都係答案嘅，兩個都係答案。OK， 咁啊第二個第三盤咁夠鐘啦，夠鐘就差唔多啦。不過咧係 Henry 好好嘅講咗一個幾好嘅方法嘅，其實就係不過我一句就算啦，呢個。等大家再自己參詳下啦。點解呢？因為呢，唔知你發唔發現呢 x 同開方 x 其實係一個 double power 嚟嘅呢。因為呢 因為開方 x 呢，其實係 x 嘅1/2次嚟㗎嘛。我哋喺上一課 Chapter 6嗰時有學過。然後 x 呢，呢個即係 x 嘅1次方嚟㗎嘛。咁所以呢個1次方同1/2次方呢，其實係 double power 嚟㗎。所以咧，我哋可以用翻 double power 嗰招就係 let u 嘅。咁呢招都得㗎嗱。咁你有興趣可以自己參詳下。就係如果你發現到佢係 double power 嘅話咧，其實呢個都可以用 let u 嘅做法嚟解決。咁但係當然我呢度咧亦都用翻開方嗰個做法嚟解決啦，就係將開方 make 翻一邊，然後就 square both sides。好，咁就係咁啦。咁我哋聽日咧就可以上翻即係實體啦。即係雖然係下晝上堂，但我哋都可以上翻實體啦。咁我哋就可以即係應該希望可以完埋剩翻嗰兩類，咁就可以完咗叫完 Chapter 8啦。咁完咗 Chapter 8之後咧，我哋只係剩翻 Chapter 10 之前未教嘅部分，同埋加埋啲温習啫，咁就應該可以早啲教完就可以一齊做下 past paper 温下書咁樣啦。好，咁我哋就聽日再見。好，拜拜。